Yes, Tory shot me. You shot me.
Everything happens so fast. And all I hear is this man screaming is and he started shooting. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like he shot a couple of times.
You believed Tory Lanez shot Megan Thee Stallion. That's what the headline screamed. That's what the world believed. But what if the truth was far more complicated and disturbing? What if you were told there was hidden evidence that could change everything? Tonight, we take you inside the case the media sold you and show you what they didn't want you to see. We're not just revisiting the facts, we're peeling back the layers of a case that captivated and divided millions. A case that, depending on who you ask, was either a brutal act of violence or a modern-day lynching by media. It all started on July 12, 2020. Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, and her friend Kelsey Harris were leaving a party in the Hollywood Hills. The night had been full of glamour, a gathering of stars, laughter, music, and maybe a little too much alcohol. But beneath the surface, tension simmered, according to reports. There was a heated argument inside the SUV. It wasn't just about music or fame or egos. There were accusations of betrayal, infidelity, jealousy. 3 people, 3 different stories. One shattered. Moments later, shots rang out. Megan emerged limping with injuries on both her feet. She claimed Tory shot her. The internet exploded. Within days, the narrative was sealed. Tory was demonized. Megan was canonized. But the story was far from over. At first, Megan told the police she had stepped on glass. Yes, her first statement at the hospital was that she injured her foot on broken glass. Let's listen to that moment.
You were just one ball stepping on the left. I really cut on my right foot. I just stepped on glass the other day. I really cannot go to jail. Okay. I cannot have that on my image.
Okay. So how did that happen to you?
Glass.
Glass? Where?
Where we were coming from.
Hey, can we get a shoot for the only place you got shot?
I didn't get shot.
Oh, you did it?
No, man. I mean, no, sir.
Later, she said she lied because she feared the police might escalate the situation, a fear many Black Americans understand, especially during a time when police brutality was front and center in the national conversation. But was it just fear or strategy? Then came the moment that changed everything. Megan livestream on Instagram called Tory out by name, not in court, not through lawyers, but through a live stream that reached millions. That one moment tilted the scales. In the court of public opinion, Tory was done. But in the months that followed, her story began to shift. In one televised interview, she denied having any relationship with Tory. In court, under oath, she admitted they had been intimate. In another interview, she spoke confidently about seeing Tory with the gun, but in police reports, her statements were less clear. Why all the contradictions? Were they mistakes made under trauma, or were there deeper motives? Was she hiding something, protecting someone, or simply trying to regain control of a chaotic narrative? Now, let's talk about what the jury never saw. The firearm recovered had no fingerprints from Tory Lanez DNA. Tests were inconclusive, not enough to prove he ever touched the weapon. These weren't theories, these were forensic facts. A key witness, a neighbor, testified that he saw 2 women fighting moments before the shots. He also claimed to see a muzzle flash near the women, not Tory. This neighbor had no connection to either party. He was just a guy who saw something from his balcony. Why wasn't that testimony emphasized in the media coverage? Why did major networks omit details that could cast doubt? Why did they present the case as a moral crusade instead of a legal puzzle? This leads us to 36hourslater.com, an independent platform that compiled overlooked documents, interviews, and analysis. They uncovered conflicting statements from multiple witnesses, ballistic reports that didn't align with the prosecution's narrative, security footage that mysteriously went missing, the LAPD's mishandling of certain evidence. This wasn't conspiracy, this was data. But the mainstream media, silent, the prosecution, focused on narrative over forensics. And the public, already convinced, #ProtectBlackWomen began trending worldwide. A powerful message, a necessary movement. But movements can be co-opted. And in this case, many argue it became a weapon, one that crushed nuance in favor of simplicity. Tory bad, Megan good. Case closed, many celebrities rushed to Megan's defense. Anyone who questioned her story was labeled misogynistic or worse. But in the rush to protect, did we forget to investigate? Did we silence legitimate questions out of fear of backlash? We can believe in protecting Black women and still seek truth. Justice cannot exist without scrutiny. Empathy and evidence must walk hand in hand. But not everyone agreed with the mainstream story. Let's listen now to a bold statement from Representative Luna, who publicly questioned the case.
So this case was actually initially flagged for me by Amber Rose. And the reason why I took a particular interest in it is because of the fact that they actually had evidence that they presented to me in my office that actually disproved the conviction. So as you stated earlier, that 0.01% of DNA, they actually found 4 people's DNA on that firearm, none of which was Tory's. Not to mention there was 0 fingerprints on the actual magazine. And also too, as you said, 0.01% chance. I mean, that evidence in itself should pretty much speak for itself. Also, there's been ring footage that's been obtained that actually disproves the whole dance, Megan. And so what we're seeing is really there was a case of he said, she said. The evidence wasn't actually respected and properly adhered to actually in the trial. And then they also were doing something that I would find pretty wild and egregious. They were actually submitting his lyrics for rap as evidence to the crime. So look, first and foremost, you have to have a free and fair society. That means we need to respect and uphold the justice system. So I actually reached out today to Gavin Newsom's office, and we are requesting an emergency meeting. We're also working with other Democrats, specifically to the California delegation. But I think that this is something that's pretty egregious, that the way that this was handled, the way that it was. I think that it was largely driven by headlines. And aside from the people involved and the parties involved, obviously I take domestic violence, I take this very seriously, Chris, but I also take very seriously the fact that I do believe, based on the evidence that I've seen, that Tory's innocent. And I think that it sets a really bad message when you have someone of his stature, and also to someone that is as influential as he is, that's being wrongfully incarcerated. And that's exactly why we wanted to use our megaphone for a good reason and help get him his pardon, which I think he'll get.
So Luna, who did it? I mean, she says, and her friends say, that he did it, and who else would have done it, and what proof do you have to support that? I get maybe they didn't make the case the right way with the weapon, but who did it?
You know, Chris, that's not for me to weigh in, and that's definitely for the judge and the jury. But what I will tell you is, based on the evidence that we have, the evidence that we have says that he wasn't the guy. And so I do think that Gavin Newsom has some great attorneys that will look at this, but I'd also like to point out that the prosecutor specifically on this case that initially brought the charges is a very interesting...
In a world where control is currency, was he seen as a threat? Artists have long whispered about industry sabotage, but rarely do those whispers make it to court. Until now, Kelsey Harris's role became more confusing with each passing day. At first, she and Megan were inseparable, best friends, ride or die. After that night, they stopped speaking completely. Kelsey was granted immunity before testifying. She denied shooting Megan, but also failed to clearly identify Tory as the shooter. She claimed memory loss on several key events. Why was she granted immunity if she had done nothing wrong? Why did the prosecution not pursue her more aggressively? Was she protecting someone, or being protected herself? And how does her alleged text, "Tory shot Meg," fit into a timeline where she couldn't remember anything clearly? And then, there's what Joe Badin had to say. The outspoken rapper and podcaster didn't hold back on air. Let's listen to the moment he questioned the entire case.
Any of y'all out there that believe that Tory Lanez picked up a gun while he was with 2 girls that he popped them both, said dance and shot her in the foot, I stand by, you're an idiot. But even in that, there was politics in that court case, and the more that comes out, I'm feeling Tory Lanez's dad being mad. Anybody that knows what happened. So the driver came out and gave his statement fine.
Why do we trust the driver?
We don't.
Okay.
And my other thing is, I
don't know him.
I read that whole thing. That shit was dated December. Why are we just seeing this now?
His podcast, it wasn't just fans who were asking questions. It was artists, lawyers, analysts, all pointing to holes in a narrative that felt curated. Many legal analysts raised eyebrows at how the case was handled. No clear motive was ever established. The prosecution leaned heavily on emotion, not physical evidence. Even former prosecutors stated that, in a different context, with a different defendant, this case might never have gone to trial. But in the court of public opinion, Tory had already lost, and that mattered more than the facts. Meanwhile, Megan continued to receive unwavering support. She graced magazine covers, spoke on televised interviews, won awards. Her career skyrocketed, but the scars, as she described them, remained, and they should be taken seriously. But again, we ask, is it possible for someone to be hurt and still not be telling the full truth? Is it possible for someone to feel like a victim while also hiding something? This wasn't just a trial. This was a modern-day media spectacle. The lines between truth, loyalty, politics, and profit blurred. Tory Lanez, once a rising star, now sits behind bars, but even now he proclaims his innocence. His family has vowed to appeal. His fans remain divided, and still, many questions remain unanswered. Was Tory Lanez truly guilty, or was he a scapegoat for a deeper, untouchable machine? Was Megan Thee Stallion brave for speaking out, or did she hide a darker truth? Was this about justice or narrative? We may never know the full story. But we can choose not to accept every headline at face value. We can ask questions, we can demand evidence, and we can hold both the powerful and the protected accountable. What do you believe? Was Tory Lanez guilty, or was he framed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story made you think, subscribe to the channel. This is SpaceX Fame, and we're not done exposing the truth. Not by a long shot.